This is Gridiron Graduates, a weekly podcast covering all things football. Episode number 33, My Money's on the Winner. Recorded February 4th, 2016.
Hello, friends. Not Jim Nance here, joining you for another edition of GG. Now, of course, it's Bill Rossetti joining you for Super Bowl 50 edition of the Gridiron Graduates. And joining me, of course, is the Phil Simms to my Jim Nance, but of course a lot better than Phil Simms, if you ask a lot of people. Ian Ward, what's going on, brother?
Things are good, man. We're closing in on the final game. Obviously, it was Super Bowl 50, and so that means it's prime draft season as well. And always an interesting time of the year as we start to get families of prospects name searching Twitter and prospects name searching themselves. But it's also a good time of year to really recap what happened last year, especially as we have more time to go back, watch film, both college and NFL. So I love the football season, but I also like the off season as well, just because it's a chance to kind of catch up, go back, see what happened, formulate opinions for next year.
Absolutely, yeah. That's hopefully one of my goals too after the season is to kind of go back and watch some of the games and really dig in as we go through the draft and get to next season, because certainly it's a long gap till the new season, especially after the Super Bowl, because one of the worst periods in the football season is those about 3 weeks between the end of the Super Bowl and the scouting combine. But yeah, I can't believe it, man. You know, I've said this a few times. You know, we started this podcast back in June. It was about 3 months before the season. You know, we were all excited to build up toward the season, previewing everything. But now here we are, just one game left. I mean, it's just crazy to believe that this weekend is the Super Bowl. I guess I'm speechless. I don't know how to put it. It's crazy that how fast time went and how fast the season went. But before we get to the Super Bowl, I do want to mention a couple things, because there's a couple bits of news today that I saw that I wanted to note. Earlier today, it's another day, another Johnny Manziel incident. Apparently, he was reportedly, I guess, in an altercation with his girlfriend or something, and she claimed that he hit her and was going to kill her, something like that. But now we're getting reports that both the Dallas police and the Fort Worth police have closed their investigation and aren't charging Manziel. So looks like Manziel dodged another bullet. But, you know, just the fact that these allegations have come out just continue to spiral for Johnny Manziel. It's just amazing how do I want to say this? Like all these bad reports, this bad rap sheet that Manziel has built just in the last couple months, it seems, or just so recently. And the report a few days ago that on March 9th, the first day of the league year, the Browns will cut Johnny Manziel, only because they moved their unused cap from 2015 to 2016. So right now they don't have the cap room, so they're going to wait to 2016. So now it's a matter of, can Manziel get his NFL career straightened out? And will another team even bother to take a shot on him? What's your take on Johnny football?
Yeah, so Johnny is I mean, it's really a shame. I honestly, I hope he just gets the help that he needs. He's clearly a very disturbed young man. Just a lot going on in his life. So, interestingly enough, on field, well, he was one of my big hits, and I was very strong with my opinion of him coming out of Texas A&M. You didn't have to go far. You had only asked very vague questions to know that he was not a good character coming out of college. I mean, I never understood the excuses for him, like when people said, "Oh, he's just a kid. He's just a college kid doing college things." No, like his dad literally came out and said that he was an alcoholic before he was even drafted, and he was a jerk, and he didn't even like hanging out with his own son. So, like that stuff matters. That's why the stuff with like Connor Cook is not nearly as bad as Johnny Manziel, but it's why teams put stock into character, and you should. If you have an addictive personality, if you have an abusive personality, those things matter. That's what NFL scouts are paid to really do nowadays. It's not necessarily just talent evaluation; it's really background and character work. And you know, it's unfortunate. I really do hope he gets the help he needs. I honestly don't think he'll ever play in the NFL again. Just because when he did play, he wasn't very good. There were a lot of major concerns on the field first and foremost, then off the field. Obviously, the significance and the severity of what's come out, or at least that's been, allegedly happened. I think that could be a career killer. And, hey, you make your bed and you lay in it and you deal with the consequences. He clearly is not in a state to really worry about football. Football is not a priority for him. And, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's really something. It's surprising how bad it's gotten, but it's unfortunate too. It's important. It's fortunate for fans because all I'm thinking of is if he would have stayed in college 2 more years, how fun of a player he was in college, how good he was in college. So we all missed out on that. Even though I didn't like him as an NFL prospect, he was a fantastic college player. So It's unfortunate. Hopefully he gets the help he needs, and maybe we'll see him back on the field one day. But like I said, I have my doubts.
And I just want to note too, like how you brought up the whole like he's just a college kid or whatever that people like to say. Well, that's a bit of a pet peeve of mine because normal 21-year-old college kids aren't the starting quarterback for a big time Division I school. Normal college kids don't win the Heisman Trophy. So a guy like Johnny Manziel is going to be held to a higher standard than your quote-unquote average college student. And especially for someone going into the NFL. So, but yeah, it's just unfortunate to see how quickly this has spiraled out of control for him. Even if the charges have been dropped, this is still another black flag for him that's gonna continue to follow him. And then another bit of news I saw today, it looks like a little bit more drama between the Eagles and DeMarco Murray, as once again there was a report that DeMarco's not happy and potentially wants out of Philly, but then DeMarco apparently comes out and says he wants to stay in Philly. This is the second time this has happened. So, it's like fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. If it takes a second time now for something like this to happen, he's had to come out and say, I want to stay in Philly after a report that he possibly wants out. I think deep down he probably wants out of Philly, after what happened last year where he didn't carry the ball a lot for Chip Kelly, and even when he did, he wasn't all that successful. Now, he could be successful under Doug Peterson. We don't know, but it just feels like if eventually these two are going to part ways. Whether that's the Eagles eat all the dead money it would take to cut him, or they find someone to trade him to for probably at best a 6th rounder because of his contract and how much money he's guaranteed. So I think ultimately something's going to happen because there just seems to be too much drama being stirred up with all these reports, and even if they move on, the Eagles can still roll with Ryan Matthews and Sproles, maybe draft a running back.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where you look at the fit, you look at what happened last year, and you say, okay, I could see why they'd want to split ways. I don't think it's nearly as dire of a situation as maybe some people think, because I think he's still a decent player. Like, I think what happened last year was partially because of the offensive line he was playing behind, partially because of the scheme he was playing. There's things that you can do to make it work this year for them under Doug Peterson. If Doug Peterson's a good coach, he should make it work. You don't need to put your guys into square pegs when they're around, if you don't need to fit into a square hole when you've got a round peg, or whatever you want to say.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. Any way you want to look at it, divvy it up. I think that just being able to adjust your scheme to him is how you make it work. Because this is honestly what it boils down to. This is the only thing that matters. If they cut him this year, it's $13 million in dead cap. The Eagles actually lose $5 million in cap space. So they're not going to cut him. Not when it actually costs them money to cut him.
It's like last year at Riley Cooper. Everyone wanted him gone, but it was actually going to cost them more than it would have saved them.
Right. That's never going to happen. You're never going to see that happen. They'll sooner make him inactive than cut him and actually lose money like that. But if they trade him, if someone is crazy enough to trade him, whether it be for a 6th-round pick, conditional 7th-round pick, which is basically a free look at him besides his salary, the Eagles would save $4 million, and they would have $4 million still counting against their cap of the $8 million total. So I think if they can trade him, that's probably the only way that they're going to get out of that contract this year. Next year, they can cut him for about the same price, $5 million in dead money, but they would open up $4 million. So I think it makes more sense just to hold on to him this year. He's not a bad player. He's not, he's not explosive, and you can tell that physically he's just not quite the same guy. But he can still be productive, I think. You enter next year with Ryan Matthews as your starter, and you use Murray as a backup, unless if you are willing to build the offense a little bit more for him. So I'm bullish on him. I think that he's a good player. I would be really surprised, though, if they can dump him off, just because even though it's not a great running back draft class, it is a fairly decent running back free agency class. You have 24-year-old Lamar Miller, who's going to get a lot of money, and deservedly so. You got Alfred Morris, Chris Ivory as another guy, Doug Martin, if he actually hits free agency. So those guys are studs. And I think that you'd take them all over Murray. So, and I don't think that there's more than maybe 4 teams looking for a back. So if someone comes to them and says, hey, take him off your hands, conditional 7th-round pick, I think you just take it. I think you take it. Like you said, invest cheaply at running back, especially because this team, that's the one notable thing about the Eagles roster. They've been handing out a couple big extensions here. And they're good players, and they're working on a Fletcher Cox deal. It's going to be over 9 figures. It's going to be a $100 million contract. Again, worth it, but they've got to save some money here somewhere, wherever possible, actually, for them to continue to re-sign their impact guys. So maybe they do whatever it takes to make it worth it to dump Murray, not necessarily just for the talent aspect, but maybe for the money. That would make a lot of sense to me.
I'm just checking up the Eagles cap at the moment, thanks to Over the Cap, NFL salary cap, player contracts, and related news and analysis. There's your Super Bowl commercial from GG.
And I'm a huge user of Over the Cap, so it's where I get all my salary information. Sometimes I'll use SpoTrack as well, because SpoTrack has a little bit different. I like their the tracking tools and the interface, but the Over the Cap calculator is fantastic. So
yeah, I like the calculator too.
Absolutely.
And according to them, they have them at about 140 million in cap space, and the rumor swirling around is that the cap's going to be about 153. So that puts you at about 13 million in cap space. You also have to set aside about 6 million for draft picks.
Yep.
So they have a little bit of room to work with. But yeah, you mentioned Cox potentially getting a deal, so that might lower his cap number a bit. And then we'll see what happens. So there's a bit of notes, and certainly starting next week we'll have a lot more news and notes to talk about, because that's about all we'll have to talk about. But let's actually get to the final game of the regular season, or of the season period. I wish it was only the last game of the regular season, but it's Super Bowl 50. And Ian had a good idea before the show that we go position by position. So I think we got a good bit of time here that we can go through all the positions and talk about each team. And then I guess at the end of this, we'll make our official picks.
Sounds good.
So I think we'll start at quarterback, obviously. And, of course, the whole, old school versus new school quarterback in Cam Newton versus Peyton Manning. The stories the whole time they've been talking. First time that two number one picks are going against each other. Of course, both pair of SEC quarterbacks. But it's an interesting matchup there because, we all said Peyton was left for dead during the regular season. Comes back in Week 17 against the Chargers, and I'll use Pete Smith's words. By the way, thanks again to Pete for coming on the show. I'll use his words. It's like Lazarus rising from the dead. With the way Peyton has really rebuilt himself over the last month or so. So he's certainly playing well going into this game, and the whole, this could be his final game, and people want to see him ride off into the sunset as a Super Bowl champion. But there's just no denying the way Cam Newton has played, not just in the playoffs, but really all season long. He's obviously going to be named MVP come Saturday, and deservedly so. Not just because of the 15-1, but just the way he's carried that team. Because without him, the Panthers are nowhere near this spot. Probably don't even make the playoffs with him.
Right.
So for me, the edge at quarterback here goes to the Panthers and Cam Newton. Both have been throwing strong, but obviously the legs of Cam Newton and the way he uses his legs gives the Panthers that little bit of an edge.
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't even think that's really I don't even think that's really a debate. You could really compare Cam Newton to anybody this year, and I think that you'd probably say Cam Newton as the guy that you take. I honestly think he's been the best quarterback in the NFL this year. And it's not so much that even he dramatically improved who he is. He's always been kind of a variance passer. He's always fairly inaccurate. I know that when I chart him, he's not going to be the most accurate quarterback. That's not his game. His game is big plays and extending plays and making people around him better. He's a very good player. He's a great player. And, I think that when you look at what he's done, is the timing of his plays is just better. It's really just hard to describe where he suddenly got better. It's just consistency. Not necessarily with mechanics or anything like that. It's just consistency of making the play. And I think that we all underrated a little bit the support around him this year, and props to his coaches and the team there, like the front office, for doing a great job of building that roster to the level that they could actually have that identity that they have now, that physical identity, that run-first identity. They're very creative with what they do, especially on offense, and I think that really helps Newton too. And that's not a negative. It's not a negative that they help out Newton. That's how a team works. So I agree with you here. I think that Newton certainly gets the nod.
So that's one check mark for the Panthers. By the way, quick, I want to throw in too. We gave that shout out to Over the Cap. I want to give a shout out to Krispy Kreme donuts. I had a couple today because we got a couple boxes for a local school fundraiser. Oh, they are the best. I don't know about you, but I love Krispy Kreme donuts.
I do. I try to stay away from that as much as possible, but
I enjoy them in moderation. It's not like I eat them every day, but when you get a chance.
Yeah, I'm with you. They are delicious.
All right, let's move on before I get hungry for more donuts, even though there's a box sitting right next to me. Running backs. And to me, well, I'll let you go first on this one. What do you think on the running backs?
So for Carolina, you've got Jonathan Stewart, Ozzie Whitaker, Mike Tolbert. Those are really probably the only guys you're going to see during the game. Cameron Artis-Payne is the third stringer there, but I don't think you're going to see him in the Super Bowl. Probably mostly just see Stewart and Tolbert. For Denver, C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman. I'm going to go with the Panthers here as well. Although I like the duo of Hillman and Anderson. Those two have been pretty productive. I was looking at their numbers earlier today. They've combined for almost 1,600 yards at 4.4 yards per carry this season. So they've been pretty efficient. They haven't been dominant, but they've been good. Stewart, though, I think is very impressive. I think he's a very good back. I think he's been one of the better backs this season. Unlike Tolbert, for as fat as he is incredibly effective as a fullback running back. So I like, and part of this is usage. I like in this game, I'm going to give the edge to Carolina because I don't think Denver's going to be able to run the ball, and I don't think that that's any of the fault of the running backs. I just think the defense that they're going to be facing, as great as the Denver defense is, and we'll get into that, I think that Carolina's just going to have an easier job running than the Broncos will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll agree. Like I really like the way the Panthers have been running the ball. Now that he's been pretty healthy the last couple of weeks, Stewart has run well. Tolbert has been one of the better fullbacks in a league where fullback is a dying breed. But Tolbert, both in blocking and in carrying the ball, because he's still a good ball carrier too, and we've seen that for years. Whitaker has carved out a nice role for himself. It's kind of a change of pace, third down back a little bit. And even Artis-Payne sprinkled in there has, he's had a solid rookie season. We didn't see too much of him, but the opportunities he's had, he's done pretty well. And it's like you're saying, it's not that Denver's defense or that Denver's running backs are bad. Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson bouncing back after he struggled throughout the season. But it just feels like the way the Panthers have been running the ball, they're probably going to have the edge here. So far, I think it's 2-0 Carolina. So
I think as we hit the receivers group, I think that's about to change. Denver,
so too,
obviously, with the dynamic duo of Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Side note on this discussion, I would argue that Emmanuel Sanders is better than Demaryius Thomas. Maybe that's a discussion for another day. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't even know if that's a hot take. I can see that,
though. I mean, you could argue that Sanders is more of an all-around receiver.
Yep.
whereas Thomas is just kind of your deep threat, your 9 route, maybe a couple other routes in there. But Sanders, when healthy, and we saw when he was in Pittsburgh, when he's healthy, he's a very good receiver. He's not a household name, but he can be a very good receiver when he's top notch, or when he's, at or near 100%.
Yep. If you want big plays and explosiveness, Demaryius Thomas is very good, especially after the catch at creating. But I personally, I really like Emmanuel Sanders' route running ability. I love he's very explosive as well. He's very quick, but he's a different player. He's well-rounded as far as his route running, and he gets open very quickly, and then he creates with his quickness, as opposed to Thomas, who plays with power and more just straight line speed. So, but I think this team is definitely better than what Carolina's got. Carolina, I mean, I don't even really have to go past Sanders and Thomas. Owen Daniels has been good. Vernon Davis, he's old. He's not the same guy as he was, but he's still a talented player. He's going to have to step up big time in this Super Bowl. I think either one of those two to help give that third option to split the middle of that flaunted defense that Carolina trots out there with all that speed and athleticism. Outside of those guys, I mean, those are 4 good options. It's not as deep as years past, but it is a good unit overall, especially at the top. It's very top heavy, especially compared to Carolina. You got a couple of Buckeye legends in Corey Brown and Ted Ginn. As much as I love those guys, along with guys like Jericho Cotchery, Devin Funchess. I like Devin Funchess, but my goodness, I mean, it's not really a strong wide receiver core for Carolina, and that's something that I think they need to continue to invest in. Even if they get Calvin Benjamin back next year, full health, I still think they might need to add another talented player to that mix. But I think this is an easy decision. Even though Greg Olsen is fantastic, top 3 tight end in the NFL right now. Well, maybe top 4. I'll say top 4 and play it safe. Top 4 tight end in the NFL right now. As good as he is, I just don't think they can compare to what Denver trots out there.
I agree, and it's not really much of a question. You take the group of Demaryius and Sanders, and they've gotten Benny Fowler involved a little bit. It just easily trounces what Carolina's going to put out there. I mean, the Panthers receivers aren't bad, but they're also being made a lot better by Cam Newton. We went in before the season, not really talking about Corey Brown. Ted Ginn's the ultimate boomer bust. It's crazy that he's had the season that he had, but he's also dropped a lot of passes. So he either gives you the big play or he gives you next to nothing. So yeah, I agree. If we're talking wide receivers, and even if you're grouping the tight ends, Denver definitely gets the nod. I'll give Carolina the edge, obviously, in tight ends with the pairing of Olsen and Ed Dixon over the pairing of Owen Daniels and Vernon Davis. Although Owen Daniels, of course, still a sneaky good tight end. He's not the flashy name, like Gronkowski or the big name tight ends. He's not as stud. He's not as studly as he was a couple years ago, but he's still a solid tight end that could be a bit of an X factor in this one. If he can. If Peyton can look his way a couple times and he catches a few passes, he could help make this game interesting. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a really fun matchup between that Panther secondary and this playmaker core for Denver, because the pressure is really on them to be able to go out there, create big plays, because we know that Peyton's not going to have much time. One, he's not going to take time. He gets rid of the ball faster than anyone else in the NFL. Part of that is by design, because he doesn't want to get hit, and part of that is because his receivers generally get open very quickly. So, I think that's going to be the X factor in this game.
can Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders just actually take over the game? They need one of those two, if not both, to be able to go out there and just create for themselves. And, that's a lot of pressure, and I don't know if it's possible, but that's really what they're going to end up needing out, because I don't think Denver's going to win this game unless if it's a 17-13 type of game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, moving from the wide receivers to the offensive line, it's a really interesting one, because Carolina has built their offensive line differently than most teams. Most teams you see get the tackles first, and then they worry about the interior later. It's not really what happened with Carolina. Now, Carolina got a little lucky. Trey Turner, who's a fantastic guard, fell to the third round of the draft in 2014, despite having excellent film. I mean, he was a late first rounder for me. He's a very impressive player at LSU. He ends up dropping because of some injury concerns, and obviously that hasn't, ended up being any type of issue so far. But they get one of the best right guards in football. Then they get Andrew Norwell from Ohio State. They've got a lot of Ohio State guys, but from Ohio State at left guard, undrafted free agent, which honestly, watching him at Ohio State, I never really thought he was like a stud prospect or anything like that. I thought he was like a late rounder. He's fit in very well into their scheme and what they do. And if they were throwing the ball more, I think that they'd have more issues with him, but they don't. They're about 50-50 split, so that works. Obviously, Ryan Khalil's one of the top couple centers in the NFL as well. And they built that interior line. And then they've got Mike Remmers, Michael O'Hare as tackles. Both of those guys are average at best as tackles. But again, they're not putting a lot of stress on them, because they're using chipping tight ends, and they're using a heavy run balance to help neutralize their struggles as pass blockers. So they're a good offensive line overall. You compare them to Denver. Denver's had some injuries. Got Ryan Harris at left tackle. It's no longer Ryan Clady. Ryan Clady was obviously the stud of the group, even though he's no longer the guy that he used to be because of injuries. But he was still a very, very solid option when he was healthy. So you've got Ryan Harris, right tackle, Michael Schofield. I mean, those two guys are pretty well below average. The middle of their offensive line is stronger, similar to Carolina, but they're not nearly as strong as Carolina. Luis Vasquez and Evan Mathis are two very good guards. Even Mathis, as he's aged, he's been very good this season. Struggled to start the year, but he's been excellent ever since the first 4 or 5 weeks. And then Matt Paradis at center. I can't say I've paid too much attention to him, but I know he's not Matt Khalil's level. So, it's not a bad offensive line, but I'd say it's a very average at best offensive line, which is, again, I'm giving Carolina the nod there.
Yeah, and I'd probably have to agree. Just kind of looking position by position. Khalil obviously gets the nod at center. Guards is a bit of a toss-up. Mathis has played well for Denver. Philly continues to kick themselves for letting Mathis go. Vasquez is decent for the Panthers. Turner, I think, was just in the Pro Bowl, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, solid for him. You mentioned Norwell's not bad. I'm just impressed, though, with how well Michael Oher has played. For a guy who was just downright terrible in Tennessee as a right tackle, comes to Carolina, gets put at left tackle. I remember all I was thinking was, this is a disaster waiting to happen. This is going to be a nightmare situation for the Panthers. But it's been nothing but. He's held his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'll agree with you again here. I think Carolina gets the nod here on offensive line, which means and I, even before we did this, I kind of felt this. Carolina's the more balanced on offense anyway, and as we've gone through this, we're giving Carolina the overall edge on offense, giving them the edge everywhere except receiver.
Yep.
So we'll move on to defense, and we'll start with the defensive line. Of course, both these teams play different defenses. Denver in a 3-4, Carolina in a 4-3. But you look at Carolina's front line, which is just full of studs, especially on the interior, with Star Lotulelei and a guy who's really come onto his own this season, Kawan Short. So it's really making that 2013 draft for Carolina look really good, taking a defensive tackle in both rounds 1 and 2, because, again, you've got two studs there. And then the hope for Carolina is that Jared Allen is able to play in the Super Bowl, which I think it sounds like he's going to be able to. And then you've got Charles Johnson on the other line. For Denver, they've got some good defensive D linemen themselves too. Derek Wolfe just got that extension, has just played outstanding. Sly Williams, solid nose tackle. Malik Jackson, pretty good D end. So this is close. Both teams, I think, have really good defensive lines, but I'm a fan of interior defensive play. Probably part of that is because I played defensive tackle in high school, so I like good defensive tackle play. That's why some of my favorite players are Geno Atkins and Aaron Donald. So I think because of that, I'm going to give the edge here to Carolina because of the way Lotulelei has played, because of the way Short has played. I think those two can get after Peyton, especially with a so-so interior line for Denver, and if they can, it's going to be a long night for the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm with you here. This is a tough one, especially because you're comparing two different fronts.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go with the Broncos here. Very slightly. I like Malik Jackson a lot. I like Derek Wolfe, what they've been doing this postseason. And really, that's nothing against Carolina. I mean, they've got a fantastic defensive line as well. They don't really have that other very effective pass rusher across from Charles Johnson. So with that in mind, I'm going to go with maybe a little bit just slightly better defensive line with Denver. But like I said, you're really splitting hairs there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the fact that we're comparing a 4-man front to a 3-man front, so these two are going to get after you in different ways. But, the advantage Denver has certainly is they have one of the better, if not one of the best, defensive coordinators in Wade Phillips. Not that Sean McDermott's done a bad job, and I thought he was going to land a head coaching gig somewhere, but he didn't this year. Probably will next year, though. He's probably going to. This year, the hot candidate was Adam Gase. Next year, it's probably going to be Sean McDermott.
I hope so, because he's done a phenomenal job, and I'm really a big fan of his. I know that we talked about him earlier this offseason. I am surprised that he didn't get more attention from a team. I think that he and Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator from New England, are two excellent head coaching prospects.
So we'll move on to the linebackers now. Again, because of the different fronts, you're going to have a different number. For the Panthers, of course, you've got Shaq Thompson or A.J. Klein, whoever lines up at Sam. Obviously, Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis, assuming he does play, which sounds like he's going to. I didn't see the injury report for today. Well, on Thursday when we're reporting this. I know on Wednesday he was a full participant, which is great news. For the Broncos, you've got, of course, the dynamic duo at the two linebackers in Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. And then you've got two underrated inside linebackers, in my opinion, in Brandon Marshall and Danny Trevathan. But I got to go with Carolina here just because Luke Kuechly is arguably the best middle linebacker in the NFL. I mean, the way he flies around is just outstanding. And then Thomas Davis is the same way, And again, I got to repeat this story. The fact that he's come back from so many torn ACLs to play at the level that he's played at. I mean, it's pretty close, because of the Ware Miller factor and the way they can get after the quarterback. But I think overall, Carolina has the edge here. But again, two different styles of plays because because of the 3-man crew at linebacker versus a 4-man crew.
Yeah, if I were to count the edge rushers as defensive linemen, I'd still pick the Broncos. But then I would probably go Carolina. I would definitely go Carolina with the linebackers. But obviously that's not the case. The edge rushers for Denver are linebackers. I'm going to go with Denver here. And again, it's just like the defensive line. You're splitting hairs. Danny Trevathan is very good, but he is not Luke Kuechly. However, and it's nothing against Shaq Thompson or Thomas Davis, those guys are great have formed to be a very good unit, if not the best in the NFL. You're probably looking at top 2 in the NFL. When including pass rushers, though, it's difficult. It's a little bit different overall conversation. So I'm going to go with Denver here just because DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller have been absolutely incredible this postseason. So because of their dominance, I think that they have a lot of pressure on them to come out and just be fantastic in this in this Super Bowl, because again, it's going to be points at a premium. So they've got to keep the score down, and it's really up to them to set the tone for the defense. So I think I'm going to go with them. I'm going to lean towards that way again. It's nothing against that Carolina front. It's just what Von Miller and Ware have done to me is a little bit more impressive than what Shaq Thompson and Thomas Davis has done. But again, it's not really meant to be disrespectful to them because we're splitting hairs, man. Like these two defenses are just incredibly impressive.
I mean, there's a reason these are the top 2 defenses in the NFL. They're just so good. So it's like you can make a case either way. It's almost like you have to pick. So then wrapping up the defense, we go to the secondary. Denver, of course, you've got T.J. Ward, Darian Stewart. Well, Darian Stewart's injured, but the thought is that he's going to play. Chris Harris and Bradley Roby and Aqib Talib. Roby mixes in as the nickelback. Harris and Talib as the corners. Carolina, you've got, of course, Josh Norman, who is arguably the best corner throughout the season. Cortland Finnegan opposite him. And you'll probably see Robert McClain a little bit. And then you got Roman Harper and Kurt Coleman at safeties. Still surprising to see the way Kurt Coleman has played. And I guess I just say that just because he wasn't the greatest when he was in Philadelphia. But again, credit to Sean McDermott coaching up these guys, and that's why you're getting great play from guys like Coleman and Norman. But I'm finally going to show Denver some love here and give them the edge in the secondary. I mean, the combo of Talib and Harris is just absolutely outstanding. I mean, unless I missed something, because I know Chris Harris had been banged up, so unless I missed something, when that there's a chance he's hurt or whatever. As far as I know, he's playing.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so the combo of Talib and Harris is just outstanding, and then T.J. Ward is still one of the more physical safeties in the league. So you put the three of them together. And then Bradley Roby has played very well. He had the interception on the 2-point conversion that pretty much eliminated New England. So that's going to make for an interesting matchup. And you mentioned earlier watching this Carolina second. Actually, let me flip that because this is opposite. I'm sorry. Watching this Denver secondary against these Carolina receivers, going up against guys like Funchess and Cotchery and guys like that. But, so secondary, I give the edge to the Broncos.
I'm going to go with you here again. And so, for me, this makes it a clean sweep across the defense for the Broncos. This secondary is insane. They have two legitimate number one cornerbacks in Bradley Roby and Chris Harris. Aqib Talib's a high-end number two corner. He fits that defense perfectly. Wade Phillips has done an amazing job with this unit. T.J. Ward, he plays, again, a perfect role for him. They don't need him to be something he's not. Because they have so much talent around him. He's literally probably the 10th best starter on that defense, which is insane. Because he's a good player. He's not a great player, but he's really good at what he does, and so that helps. And then Darian Stewart, they got some injuries. I know they're backup safeties, but it's a talented unit, man. Like it's my favorite cornerback group in the NFL. And because of that, no offense to Carolina, as good as Josh Norman is, they're relying on a bunch of kind of average guys to make plays in that secondary. And they really excel because of the linebacker unit. And that defensive front is so good, too. So they're made better by the players in front of them. And the scheme is very player-friendly, which it's a very good unit. But just can't go better than that Denver unit. They're simply the best in the NFL.
Should we talk about the specialists, too, for the hell of it?
Yeah, sure.
So we've got Britton Colquitt for the Broncos as the punter. Panthers punter is Brad Nortman. And I'm not going to sit here and try to bullshit you guys and be like, oh, yeah, I analyze punters all the time. I don't know. Both punters are good. We'll call that a split. Kickers, unfortunately for Brandon McManus, this isn't high altitude. But he's still been a very good kicker. But so is Graham Gano for the Panthers. I'll say McManus for the hell of it.
I don't really know what their stats are this year off the top of my head. I'll go Graham Gano, just because I feel like he's a good kicker. But yeah. I think both are pretty good. I think both specialist teams are pretty strong. It's hard to get to the Super Bowl with the bad special teams. These games come down to those critical plays. And although we didn't see that this playoff run for Carolina, we did see it in Denver, especially for New England with Gostkowski shockingly missed an extra point. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's just a matter of executing and doing your job. And I think these are pretty strong units. It hurts that Omar Bolden is hurt for the Broncos for the kick return, but overall, I think these are two strong units. I'm going to give the edge to the Panthers overall because they also have Teddy Dean in their back pocket to use as a kick returner.
Yep. Yeah, Ted Ginn at punt return, and then Whitaker's been pretty good as a kick returner. So, and I don't know how you feel. I was just searching Super Bowl prop bets too. I brought up an article on SB Nation. So if you want to do prop bets too, real quick before, I don't know if you want to do the scores first or if you want to do some prop bets.
Yeah, sure.
Should we do our scores quick first?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we'll make our official Gridiron Graduates Super Bowl pick. For me, I will go, and I agree with you, like what you said earlier. Denver, they have to keep this a low-scoring game to win this game, because even with how Peyton has played lately, I don't know if they're going to have the high-powered offense to keep up with Carolina if Carolina's offense can get going. If Carolina can get into the high 20s or 30s, Denver's in trouble. If Denver can hold them to low 20s, high teens, something like that, then they've got a shot. But I'm going to go with, I'll say Carolina 27, Denver 20.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like a made-up score, but
No, I can definitely see that.
We'll go with that 27-20 Carolina.
Yeah, and I think that for Denver to win this, they've got to score at least 27 points. I think that's the number. And they only scored more than that, or more than, I think, like 25, like 3 times all season, I believe. Or no, I think it was the other way around. Carolina scored less than like 25, I think like 3 times all season, if I remember correctly. So I just don't think it's likely. And as good as Denver's defense is, and obviously we covered it, it's amazing. I still just think it's going to be difficult because Cam is playing so well, and they're just a difficult team to defend against because they change their running style so well, and they like to attack different spots each week from the running game, and they change the look of the handoff, where it's actually being handed off at. And it's minor things like that, but it makes it very difficult to coach against and to execute against because one small mistake, and you're giving up 7 or more yards. And all of a sudden then, if you put Cam Newton in a short yardage situation, he is extremely dangerous. Mm-hmm. He can take off running himself. He can go deep. He likes to go deep and then, try to just convert the first down on the next play when he can, and he's so good at it. I'm going to go Carolina 24, Denver 14. And it's not, I think it'll be a pretty close game throughout most of the game, though. But Carolina wins fairly comfortably.
There you go. We both have the Panthers winning. Cam Newton kind of completing his rise to the top of the NFL. So, if we're right, it's going to be quite the weekend for Cam Newton. He'll likely get the MVP on Saturday, and then hoist the Lombardi Trophy on Sunday. So with that, I think we'll close with a little bit of fun here. I think we'll do some prop bets. That sounds fun. Because it's always, I've never actually done prop bets, but figured here on the podcast, what the hell, right? So I'm looking at this article on SB Nation, and I have their link to the post on Odds Sharks. So I'll just pick a couple fun prop bets, just for fun. So we'll start with the coin toss, heads or tails. The odds apparently are both the same price at -105. Shocker, 50 for a coin flip. I'll go tails because tails never fails.
I'll go heads.
Okay. Lady Gaga is singing the national anthem, which I'm actually... this may sound bad, but I'm more excited about the national anthem with Lady Gaga than I am the halftime show with Coldplay.
I am with you. I am not at all a Coldplay fan. I'm actually not a Beyonce fan either. So I think that Lady Gaga is very talented. She did a great job on American Horror Story this latest season. Big fan of her. I think she'll go over, by the way, on this prop bet, because I'm pretty sure I know what this prop bet is.
Yeah, the prop bet, of course, is the length of time that she will sing the national anthem, and the sports books have it set at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. The note they have, though, is only one of the last 10 Super Bowl anthem lengths has gone over 2:10, and that was when Alicia Keys went 2:35 at Super Bowl 47. But Lady Gaga also certainly has the potential to drag it out just because she's Lady Gaga. So I'll go over as well just for the hell of it.
Yeah, why not?
We'll go over 220. And I'll just note too, like, it seems like she gets a lot of hate, which I don't understand. Like, she's a very talented singer, and I'm a fan of some of her songs. Like,
oh yeah, she's not the same person she was when she came out.
No, absolutely not.
I mean,
no.
She's a way different person. Like she does a lot of different avenues. I mean, she was doing a jazz concert tour with the big time jazz guy. I'm not really into jazz, but like it's hard. You can't help but respect her. She's a really good actress too, and just her talent. I just, even if you don't like her music, it's just not fair to not respect her for the work that she does.
And like, I'm a fan of songs like Alejandro and Paparazzi.
Yeah, she makes catchy music. Yeah, for sure.
What else do we got? What color will Beyonce's footwear be when she comes out on stage?
Jeez.
Black is the favorite at plus 150. Gold/brown is plus 250. White plus 300. Silver gray plus 500. Any other colors at plus 500.
I was thinking gold when you had said that, so I'll go with the gold.
I'll go with white. Just for the hell of it. What's this? During the broadcast of the game, prop bettors will have plenty of things for which to watch and listen. Will Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, or Bernie Sanders be mentioned during the broadcast? No is the minus 300 favorite, but a mention of any of these presidential candidates would pay plus 200.
Wow. I think I'm going to go with no here. If it was the Patriots, I think that they'd probably mention Trump. I'm going to go with no here, though. I just don't see how that gets brought up in the conversation.
Yeah, not in a game like this.
Yeah.
We're tired of politics already. We've already had the Iowa caucus, so let's let them settle down a little bit and let them focus on New Hampshire. What's this? Other broadcast lines include how many times John Fox will be mentioned. The over-under line is set at 1. I'll say over.
I'll say I actually would like to go push here, but I'm going to go under. Okay. Although I do think that they'll mention him once. I think that they need to mention that Kubiak's in his first year, replacing John Fox. I do think that'll be said, but I'm not going to say it's going to go over, so I'll go under.
And for those, of course, needing to catch up, this has kind of been dubbed the John Fox Bowl because these are the two teams John Fox took to the Super Bowl, losing both times. Over under 1.5 times Archie Manning will be shown. I'll say under.
I'll go over. In the unlikely event that the Broncos do win, they're going to show him, I'm sure, at the start of the game, or at least early.
Yeah.
And then if Denver wins, or even if it's to that point where it's a blowout, I think that they'll take a quick look to him. They're going to show sad Peyton, and then they're going to show sad Eli, or sad Eli and sad Archie.
the ultimate Manning face.
And hopefully we get to replace that stupid Jordan crying face.
Yeah, that's run its course.
I wouldn't mind it being replaced with like sad Eli or sad Peyton face. Because I really hate this crying Jordan face. It's not funny.
Yeah, it's gotten old pretty quick. And then over under 2.5 times that John Elway will be shown.
Oh, it's gotta be over.
I'll say over. Yeah,
it's gotta be over.
Post-game prop bets include... Well, before we get to that, we'll do a couple more that I'm seeing on here. First scoring play. What do you think it's going to be? I'm going to say touchdown.
I'm going to go field goal.
I could have bold and said safety, but...
Those ones are always attractive because of the money lines on them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I'm going to go field goal just because these defenses are so good.
By the way, if you do choose a safety on OddsShark, by either team, it's plus 3,300.
Wow.
Is the money line. Yeah.
It's not bad to just even throw down $10. And
Panthers touchdown. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you throw down $10, you get $330.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna be throwing down money anyways, put like $100 total, that's worth $10 just for the chance.
Absolutely.
Because if somehow, let's say that the if the Broncos are backed up against their goal line for whatever reason, Payton's not gonna be able to move. So.
We saw it 2 years ago against the Seahawks.
Yeah, like, I don't think Cam has a chance of being safety, but Peyton certainly does. So you never know.
Mm-hmm. Then they have first touchdown scorer. That'll be interesting. I think Cam will probably score the first touchdown.
Yeah, it'll either be Cam or it'll be someone random.
He's obviously the favorite at plus 700. Peyton Manning is plus 5,000.
Oh, wow.
I already said first scoring. Odds to win MVP. I think Cam's going to get Super Bowl MVP here.
Yeah. I agree. I mean,
a lot of the money lines aren't bad, though. Luke Kuechly is plus 1,400.
It's just hard. It's hard when, like, your team wins for it to not be the quarterback. So,
yeah,
if you're going to bet money on it, put a lot down on the quarterback that you think is going to win, and then maybe hedge your bet with like a second guy like Kuechly. Kuechly wouldn't be a bad option. Maybe put down like $10 or so because, in the unlikely event that it happens, at least you're getting a nice payoff to make the risk worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. Exotic props. I know I'm running along with this, but it's Super Bowl. We're having fun, right? Because I found these exotic ones. These are fun. This is a funny one. Will Left Shark make an appearance on stage during the halftime show?
Oh, jeez. I'll say no.
Well, this is an interesting one. If you bet yes, it's plus 2,000. Will Denver win the Super Bowl? Peyton Manning retires. San Antonio wins the NBA championship, and Tim Duncan retires.
Jeez. I mean, I would need much better odds than plus 2,000. Quite frankly, I would probably need like plus 5,000. No.
Yeah,
I don't
say
think
no
the
either
Spurs
because
are
I
going to
think
win.
the Warriors are going to repeat.
Yeah, I think either the Cavs or the Warriors win it all. I don't think the Spurs win it all.
Yeah.
So, and I certainly don't think the Broncos are going to win. Like, it wouldn't shock me if they won, but I just don't think that they will.
And then, what's this? The post-game props. What color will the liquid be that is poured on the winning coach? So what color will the Gatorade bath be, I guess?
I'm going to go with blue. Light blue.
I think blue's a good color, too. Blue Gatorade's always good. By the way, orange is the favorite. And then what's this? Who will the Super Bowl MVP mention first? The co-favorites are his team and God.
Oh.
God's an attractive pick. People love to be like, I just want to thank God and my teammates. They always say God first.
Does it have family or mom?
It just says with co-favorites of team and God.
Well, if those are my only two choices, I mean...
I'm sorry. Oh, well, here's the whole thing. I'm sorry, because I found it on the site. Team and God are plus 200. City/fans plus 600. Coach plus 750. Family plus 1,500.
I'm going to go family. Because if Cam wins it, I think he's going to thank his mom. I don't know why. I feel like he's gonna say like something like "I love you, Mom,"
Yeah.
and then start getting everything in there. So if that counts.
All right, friends. After that little mishap, let's jump back into this quick and kind of wrap things up to kind of tie up the loose ends there, so to speak. But so Ian is picking family because you said Cam's probably going to mention his mom and if he wins MVP.
Yep, that is what I would go with.
Yeah, I'm going to go with God just because it seems so attractive. I don't know, it's just so tempting. But yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap things up here with all those fun prop bets. Yeah, it's hard to believe we just finished up our final show of the season. By the time we come back next week, we'll be in the off season, getting ready for the scouting combine, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. That's where a lot of guys are going to make their millions, and overreactions are sure to come. So it's really the best time of the year for the hot takes that ensue.
Confirmation bias will be flying, especially on a guy like Braxton Miller. But that's a story for another day. So, yeah, that's it, I guess.
Yeah, no, man. This is going to be a fun weekend. I'm really excited for the Super Bowl because I don't really care who wins. I kind of hope Cam wins just because I like him a lot. But overall, I mean, I don't have any rooting interest outside of individual players that I like, and I like a lot of players on both teams. But just looking forward to a good game.
And I think it's certainly going to quiet a lot of the haters of Cam Newton if he wins this game. I know people that, just from stuff like off the field or things that he said, kind of rub them the wrong way against Cam. But I don't have a problem with Cam or what he does. If he's a little cocky right now, well, he's kind of earned that right. I mean, last I checked, the Panthers are 17-1. But if the Broncos win, then that's great too, because then that means Peyton Manning can ride off into the sunset. So either way, it's going to be a fun time. So enjoy the game, Ian. Enjoy if you're going to party or whatever you're going to do during the game.
Yeah, I'll just be at my mom's house, and we're just gonna eat some barbecue and enjoy the game.
There you go. And of course, enjoy the commercials too.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. I actually do like that.
Doritos got to come up big again. I'm counting on you, Doritos. And to all you listeners out there, I just want to say thanks so much to all you listeners out there that have supported us throughout the season. It's really been amazing. Again, back in June, I was excited to get started with Ian because I knew I really wanted to do a podcast with him. Obviously a good friend of mine. So I'm glad that we've been able to do this and that I guess we can say officially have ended our first NFL season together as podcast partners. So thanks to you listeners out there, and Ian, big thanks to you for joining me on this project. It's really been a blast these last few months with you.
Of course, man. It's been my pleasure, and look forward to working here moving forward with you as well.
Absolutely. So, yeah, looking forward to talking draft with you and all kinds of good stuff. And before we know it, it'll be the 2016 season. We'll be doing this all over again. And again, to you listeners out there, thanks so much. Enjoy the game. Be safe. Just have fun this weekend. And by the time we catch you next week, we'll be in, well, I shouldn't say off-season mode. We'll just say non-playing season mode. Because certainly a lot to talk about. So it's still going to be a fun ride. But enjoy the game. And for Ian Wharton, I'm Bill Rossetti. For the last time this season, take care, everybody. We'll see you next time for the first off-season edition of the Gridiron Graduates. Until then, take care, my friends.